Welcome to the LowCarbMD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast. Today I have a special guest. This guy, we were supposed to talk last time about his stuff, but he kept sidetracking to my stuff. So the illustrious, the infamous, the famous, the mentor, the enigma, Tro Kalayjian.
Yeah,
and
enigma,
it's nice that we
right?
get sit back and talk a little bit and kind of catch up a bit. So how's life, man?
Things are good. Things are good, man. It's a weird time, but things are good. Thank God, man. Thank God. Every day, thank God. But things are really good. It's nice to just us kind of chat, for a change.
Yeah.
Now people can't complain that we're talking over our guests or talking too much,
Well, we'll just talk over each other and then they'll get upset about that. We'll figure something to upset people about, we're pretty good at that. Just comes naturally, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly does.
So Tro, some of my patients got upset with me. They're like, how come it was all about you? And they were talking, I go, I know. I was trying to get Tro to talk about him and he was just kept circling it back and wanted to talk about controversial stuff and crazy stuff. So Tro, tell people about your practice and what you're doing. I think I want people to know what you have, what your vision is and what you're doing, because I think it's really important. And how your practice. A lot of my patients or a lot of people ask me like, what's Tro's practice like? I'm like, I don't know. I don't go to New York, man. They wouldn't even let me out of California.
Yeah, things are changing. So a lot of different changes are happening. I'm trying to think of like a couple steps ahead, right? So I feel like over the last 4 years, when I kind of started on this journey with the idea of, my first idea was I want to make this ridiculously easy for somebody who's overweight, far away from me, can't come in. I want to start using telemedicine. I want to start using remote equipment, remote scales, remote blood pressure cuffs. The idea was, okay, I'm not taking insurance, so I don't need to force people to come in to see me, right? The old doctor's trick of, come in to see me again, like to check your blood pressure.
Every 2 weeks, we'll check you tomorrow.
Yeah,
we'll see
let's just see what happens. We just want to make sure so doctors right now, they're rewarded by excessively bringing in patients and doing things that aren't necessary. So when patients come in, doing an EKG or doing a spirometer test, right? Doing these things that may have not been, may have not been necessary. And why did doctors do this? Because they agreed to take payment from insurance companies that was lower than they felt they deserved. And so they tried to do more things in less time, right? They tried to see their patients in 7 minutes. They tried to bring them in unnecessarily, and they did things that their patients really didn't need because of money. And I hate to say it, that's how the system was set up, and we lived it. I mean, you know it, I know it, right? We all know it. The patients know it. They're like, why am I here again? Why am I waiting 3 hours in my waiting room, right, to get a blood pressure check, to get a refill on my medications, right? So the idea was 4 years ago, how do I make this easy for patients? Right? How do I make this easy? And that has been the guiding vision since I started, is how do I make this easier for people? They don't have to come in to see me to get labs. You can go get labs near you. We don't want wait times. We can see you remotely. So before telemedicine was a thing, we were doing telemedicine, right? And we've just expanded on that. So we started with bioimpedance scales. We started with blood pressure cuffs. We started with the CGMs. And now we're doing home sleep studies. We're doing, Holter monitors that we ship out remotely. We're doing, we're coordinating imaging, closer to home for people, coordinating labs closer for home. We're even working with a company right now to do in-home lab testing. Okay, so the whole idea here is, how do we take out the middleman? Because the insurance company for the longest time was something between a doctor and a patient. It was a barrier between a doctor and a patient. And our goal is to make them on the side. It's like you and me, We're trying to deliver great care, and then let's deal with your insurance to the side of that, right? I want to be of service to you. I want to be irreplaceable, right? So that's been the vision. How do I become better and better? How do I offer something that nobody else offers? If you look at who we've hired, Amy Igus, she is irreplaceable. You cannot replace the insight of somebody who's lost 200 pounds and struggled their whole life with obesity. It's an irreplaceable experience, right? Same thing with Brian Wiley, one of our health coaches, another one of our health coaches, irreplaceable, right? He's done low carb for a decade and a half and kept it off. So, and why would these are the people we're trying to put together so we can be of service to people, at the least be a AAA for people who struggle with obesity, binge eating, food addiction, right? At the least be that. But hopefully what we're trying to do is just be an irreplaceable service compared to our peers. And there's a lot more coming from there. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What happens next is going to be even more interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome what you're doing, man. And we're on the same page, because I knew efficiency. I kept thinking, why am I not more efficient? Why am I not more efficient? Why can't I just rush people through after 18 years of practice? And I realized, like, it's about the patient and connecting and having that bond. In 4 minutes, you're not going to do it 8 minutes. And like, this turnover system we've gotten is just a disaster, because it became a volume. Like you're saying, it's like Costco makes less money on these things they sell, but they sell a ton of volume so they can do that. And that's what's happening to medicine. And it's really made me sad looking at it and talking to other doctors. And, I talk to other doctors. Well, guess what I'm doing? I have 2 scribes in my room now, and I have this, and it's like, what about just like sitting with your patient and talking? It's because the work is so, the paperwork, the dealing with insurance, all that is so cumbersome that you need all these extra bodies in there.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is our model here has been, how do we treat, first of all, we've tried to maintain like the utmost basically integrity, and with the idea that the patient is, like, we have to make them happy and prove our worth to them, right? We have to make sure they're happy and prove our worth to them. And this is why we use CGMs. This is why we check labs frequently. This is why we go into depth. We go into detail, not because, it's to be a level of service that nobody else can provide. And here's the reality. I don't think I'm something special. I don't think I'm some amazing diagnostician, right? But if you spend an hour and a half listening to somebody, they will give you the answers. You could be the world's dumbest doctor, and maybe I'll qualify for that. Who knows, right? But if you listen to somebody and have just some medical experience and some basic medical knowledge, you'll get the answer, right? You'll get the answer just if you listen. So we're trying to offer a service that's basically a step above. And I think where that has led us to do things that are, no other doctor, I think, has been in a position to do. We have to make signing up really easy online. We have to make getting your, we have to be available to text message, right? Like, imagine you can text message AAA. You can text message a suicide hotline. Why can you not text message your doctor, right? Why can you not text message a team about that you've, a community and a support system, about your food habits, right? How do we break the barriers down and get people to reach out to us when they need help, right? And so that's been the challenge, changing the culture. Even the things that we're doing next, we have an app that we're working on that'll be out very soon, right? Because we want to create social networks, right? We want to get our patients, people who have a similar vision of health, talking to each other on how they succeed, right? We want people are doing our small groups. They're in a small group with 5, 10 people, right? And they want to connect so they can support each other, right? And we want to facilitate that. So because we know that obesity spreads in social networks, and staying healthy spreads in social networks, right? So we're doing things. Here we are. I'm a physician's office. We have 15 cloud-based programs, and now we're putting out an app, right? We were the first practice to integrate with Keto Mojo. We were the first practice to integrate with Diet Dr. Pro, right? I mean, we're doing things that we're just trying to offer a better and better service. And why would we do that? If you're taking your ketone and blood sugar measurement at home, why wouldn't I want that? If Diet Doctor is an amazing resource, why wouldn't we want to share those infographics with all of our patients, right? So the next steps for this practice will be, can we make this more seamless? Can we provide more of a unique and immersive experience, a more streamlined experience, and then reaching everybody, throughout the United States? I mean, we have people flying from Alabama, Texas, Missouri, California, Ohio, right? That's gone. We're licensed now. We just got our Ohio state license today. We're waiting on California and Indiana, and then we pretty much got the entire country, right? And those are pending. Those applications are pending. And why is this? Like every day I get a call, from another doctor who wants to come work here, and hopefully we'll be able to create the system and then expand other doctors and add them on, people who can help us with, clinical trials, people who can, who are amazing doctors who've lived those journeys. That's the vision. And I'm hoping that we can, becoming a telehealth, low carb community and physician practice.
Yeah, because the worst thing
I know you share the vision.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing we're seeing is so many people. Like I was at Low Carb USA San Diego, and so many people got live in this little town. All the doctors think I'm crazy, and it's hard when, as a matter of fact, a big wig in San Diego just called me, goes, "Hey, can I be your patient?" type thing, and we started talking, and I said, "Well, what's the problem with your doctor you have now?" And he says he yells at me when I go in there. He treats me like terrible. He goes, "I don't mind someone giving me a hard time, because this guy's like yelling at me because certain meds I just don't want to take it for a certain reason, and I had side effects or whatever." But I think, man, the more I hear that, because the problem is most of the doctors are so overworked, they're like, "Go ahead and go somewhere else. I don't care." And that's the problem, is like, we're saying, "Hey, look, we want you. We want a long-term relationship with you. We want to keep you healthy, because the healthier we keep you, the better off we do also. And we have satisfaction in what we're doing." But I think a lot of docs, it's just that, it's an overall, and I know how it is because I was in that world for so long. And that's why what you're doing is so great. And that's why I followed your footsteps in this stuff, because you realize like patients are so happy. They're like, "You called me back like within an hour of me calling." And I call my other doctor like 6 times. No one calls me. There's people who have full-time doctors, and they come to me and they go, "Can I just switch to you? I'm tired of dealing with this stuff." It's terrible. Like, it's so frustrating for a patient to be, call an office and you're on hold for an hour trying to talk to someone to get an answer to your problem.
And that's the other part of this, I've basically, I'm coming to the point where I'm going to close my practice down to new patients, because I can't do any more alone. I can maybe handle 20% more patients than I have, and I don't want any more. Right. And so I have to start thinking, can I train another doctor to fit into this model? And can we work together? And that's hard for low carb docs.
It's a weird position for us to be in too, to say, look, and for me purposely, I've limited my direct primary care practice because I really love the metabolic health stuff. And it's really a hard thing to say, yeah, I'm just not, like, I don't think we're like-minded, and it's hard because some people just want the standard, throw me on a drug, let me do what I'm doing. It's like, I really can't practice that medicine anymore. It's hard for me. I really, you want to help everyone, but sometimes people come around and then they say, okay, look, I'll make some changes. Let's do this thing together. Because what we're really specializing in is lifestyle. What works for you, what works for that individual patient. Doesn't matter what Sean Baker's doing, what, Maria Emmerich and all this stuff. You try to take pieces of everyone and say, what works for you in your life? And I think that is, I've had some young docs come through here that I'm, residents and interns, and I see a lot of them are very money focused, and a lot of them are very technical focus, but they forget about the patient in front of them and listening to their story. And while the patient's talking, they're looking at their watch and like checking the, their internet type stuff. And you're like, wow, because you want to be really intent and focused. And that's one thing you're really good at, is saying, how do I fix this problem in front of me? How do I help you and get you better? Rather than saying, okay, here's a pill, get out of here. We'll see in 6 months or 2 months or whatever the time frame might be,
Yeah, I think, I think one of the things is, and you've taught, you really echoed that, is that making that connection, right? Once there's a rapport, medicine becomes easy, right? And the problem is you can't make rapport in 7 minutes, right? And you cannot, and you can't. And most, I have a patient who just today, or this was, no, sorry, 2 days ago, came to me and got fired from their practice. Okay, got fired from their practice. He has got 5 kids. They got fired from their pediatric practice. Okay, and the reason why they got fired from their pediatric practice was because one of their kids, about 2 years ago, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And their doctors told them, you have to go on a vegan diet, you can't do this. And he saw disastrous outcomes in his kids, eventually found low carb. And his son's A1C, who's 6 years old, is like, 5.0 now on low carb. And his pediatric doctor is basically yelling at him every single time he goes in. And they got into a discussion about, I guess, he fell behind on doing some of the, vaccinations on one of his kids because of COVID, couldn't get in, couldn't do, and his kids are overwhelmingly 90% of the vaccines they got, right? But his youngest kid during the COVID, during the COVID pandemic, because of the inability to kind of frequently go into the pediatric office, was behind. All of a sudden, they got a letter saying, because your kid is behind on vaccinations, we're kicking you out of our practice. Will be available to you for 30 days. So this is a patient who his kids have 95% of their vaccines. And, but this patient basically has a mind of his own, thought process of his own, and didn't do the vegan diet and had great outcomes on a low carb diet. And now he got kicked out.
Oh, you're dragging us back into controversy again, man. You know that.
No,
right?
no. That I'm not dragging you back into conversation. This is the reality. This is a patient of mine whose 5 kids were denied care because he didn't want to do a vegan diet, right? Because
Yeah,
I think that's
no.
the premise. I think that's the real thing behind it. She's religiously a vegan, proponent, and that particular endocrinologist and pediatric endocrinologist, and eventually he was kicked out, because he asked questions and did things a little bit differently. And he came to me and said, I just want to have a doctor who's willing to talk to me.
Yeah, that is the thing. And as a matter of fact, I was, on some of our medical journals, there was a doc who came out and said, look, anyone who's not vaccinated for COVID, I'm firing them from my practice. And I was thinking, man, just think if I said anyone who smokes, anyone who drinks too much sometimes, isn't that the person you want to get and say, hey, let me talk to you about wisdom. Let me try to share with you. Let me try to, and I don't know how much is grandstanding, but it's like, we're called to, not everyone's gonna have our same, like if everyone thought like us, it would be really dangerous in the world, first of all, Tro. But let people think for themselves and say, here's my reasoning why I'm doing this. My kid's doing this diet, his A1C is better, excuse me, is better than any other patient you have, and you don't like it. It's hard because it's once you're stuck in a paradigm and you can't say, hey, for me, people go, well, I have a vegan friend and he's reversed his diabetes. I'm like, cool, good, congratulations for him. My enemy is diabetes. It's not veganism. It's not, protein to energy ratio, all those things. When you start looking, say, what works for you? I don't care. It's like, what religion works for you? I'm not going to convert you to mine if yours is working. If you're feeling good and you're healthy and you're good, if you're feeling miserable every day, I may say, hey, maybe we try changing something, right? Like we've changed, you and I have both changed people off a strict keto diet. So you don't need to do this. Let's get you on something else. It's not that you can't be in such a paradigm that nothing else works and you don't look at anything. And anyone who has success doing something else, you get upset with them.
Look, the bottom line is this, is, you know, our patients are suffering, and I don't think that pediatrician is actually bad. I don't think that they're a bad person. I think that the way they look at it is, you know, I have 7 minutes to treat 5 kids, okay? And these 5 kids has a parent who asks questions. The guy's smart, Ivy League education, right? And he's not like, you know, and he just wants time, and he deserves time, right? That's the bottom line. He deserves time, and he needs a sounding board to just, hey, these are my fears, these are my concerns, right? And that doctor, I think the reality is they didn't want to provide that. They didn't want to have a connection. They wanted to be a paternalistic, arrogant, you know, do as I say, jump through the hoops, and they didn't want to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the problem. You know, that's a problem. And I think that is the real cancer in medicine right now, is doctors who don't respect the individual, don't really respect and cherish that patient-physician relationship, right? And doctors who think that paternalism is acceptable, you know, like in being maybe paternalism is not the right word, authoritarianism.
Yeah, authoritarianism. Yeah, I know that's what you see. And like people, if you have a choice, if you're paying me, right? Because what we're cheating the system is that we're getting people who care about their health. They go, hey, I'm paying what I pay for Netflix. Like a lot of people are paying more for Netflix than they are for their medical care from us. And so you look and you're like, well, maybe I'll want to help that person. How can I help them? How do I what works for you? Because if I tell you can never have a glass of wine, unless you're alcoholic, and if I say you never have wine, you're never gonna have pizza the rest of your life, you're just gonna eat like you know, keto stuff, and you're never ever gonna, it's like, wow, people go, well, I don't think I can do that, but what can you do? And then we try to negotiate in faith, and having the CGM, I think, is the greatest thing that you know that we do, and that they see it and they go, oh my gosh. Just yesterday, Tro, I'll tell you, one guy came in, he's a hardworking guy, overweight, Hispanic, you know, and we connected right away. And so we started talking, and he said, look, my whole family's been decimated by diabetes. I'm afraid I'm going to get it. And we started talking, and every day he goes, I don't drink soda, but I drink a lot of orange juice all day. And I go, well, let me tell you about that. And we had a nice discussion, and he was in tears. And he said, no doctor's ever talked to me about this. I didn't know that I could do something that would prevent me from getting diabetes, little changes. And he's a hardworking, big, strong guy. And he was in tears yesterday. I was like, man, just taking, and it took me like 10 extra minutes. If I don't have 10 minutes, how can I give it to him? And that's the thing, is I realized, like, just the time, just like anything with your wife or husband or spouse or partner or friends, just that little bit of time, like at Low Carb San Diego, just that little bit of time with Ignacio Correnta or a couple of people, you get so much from that. But if I'm in a hurry and rush and I can't sit there and talk to someone, is really hard. Like you think about like at a wedding, when you're the bride and the groom and everyone's there, but you can't really talk to them because you have so many people to see, and you can't just sit there and have an in-depth conversation. I think that's what medicine is. It's like the you know, that kind of thing where you're just so busy. You're like, okay, you're a nice person, but okay, get out of here. I got 5 more people waiting. And it's really hard when it gets like that.
I think the quality of the care, the current system degrades the quality of care. Right? Doctors have agreed to sign away the way they want to practice medicine to insurance companies in exchange for volume. And they've accepted that their care is going to be degraded. And people don't tell you that that is what is going on when you sign a contract with an insurance company. You know, you're just thinking, oh, I'm getting started. Like, I was terrified, Brian, when I opened up my practice.
Yeah, let's talk. I want to talk about that, because I really want people to get a flavor of that, because, you know, I know online people go, oh, you're just making all this money off people. And like, people don't realize how much it costs to run a practice, and how much it costs to get established, and how much it costs to put up walls, and you rebuilding your place like I did. It costs money to do that. Right. So, but I know that behind the scenes, you were working in the hospital till late at night. You were taking time away from your family. You were busting your butt on the side, not because you're going to make so much money doing what you're doing now, which you will, but you were investing for the future. And you go, okay, look, I can't do it right now. I can't jump in with all feet. And it's a hard transition to make. Trust me, I know. And so, that says a lot about you, is that you saw the vision and you wanted to help people. So you were willing to sacrifice yourself to make that happen. And you knew what you were doing, you couldn't continue on that road, right? Once you know what you know, and you say, look, I could help way more people. And that's the other thing, Tro, is with this podcast, so many people, like at this meeting, people go, oh, I listen to you on the tractor. I listen to you when I go for a hike. I listen to you and Tro, and I love it. And that kind of stuff. I listen to it when I'm falling asleep. I listen to it when I wake up, and you go, wow, it's amazing. Two knuckleheads can have that much of an influence, right? But saying what you did for the vision, because this podcast, we've lost money on it. We haven't made money. All these people, how much you make on the podcast? Like, well, it's not a business, right? Do we get patients? For sure. There's people who listen and like us.
We haven't made a cent. So that's the thing. It's all done. It's literally, we have not, like, I think at this point it costs us money, to be honest.
It's usually costs us. We have to settle up at the end of the year, but it's like, but we get to meet all the world experts. We get to learn. We get to become better doctors, all right? And people get to learn from us. And there's so many doctors I talk to, they go, oh, your podcast, I listened to your podcast and it made me think differently. And then I started listening and hearing the reason. And so that's why we did it. That's why we started this thing. But let's get back to you, Tro, about that sacrifice you made from your family, everything to get this practice up and running.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a vision I've had since I was 13. When I walked out of I was 12 years old. I walked out of the doctor's office, the pediatrician office. Pediatrician said, at 12 years old, I was the same weight I am right now, like just under 200 pounds. And he looked at me, he looked at my family. He's like, you're following in their footsteps, and you have to eat less and move more. And I knew at a young age that I had a passion to do this. And, it's been trials and tribulations along the way. But, I don't think people understand, I was working basically 10 days a month as an attending, 11 days a month, working the nights at the hospital. I could have worked I was in the Yale system. I was in the committees for the Yale. I did the low back pain guidelines for Yale. I was doing a retrospective study on rhabdomyolysis for Yale, and I was actively involved. I was the chief resident at Greenwich Hospital in the Yale system. So the thing was, I could have worked another day there, and I could have made probably, I don't know, it's just maybe 30% more, and I could have been fine. I would have been fine. I probably would have spent more time with my family. I would have had a much better quality of life. But I couldn't, right? When the system is wrong, and when you see a way outside of the system, and you see a world suffering, and you have a desire to kind of work on your own and help people in the way that you've struggled your entire life, right? Like, how do you not do something? So you say sacrifice, but it's like, I don't know that I had another choice, Brian. I don't really know that I could have done anything different. Like I couldn't, right? So the choice was very easy. The decision was very easy. You make it sound like it was a big sacrifice, but it was like, what else? Like, you either have wrong or right, and you have to pick right. You can't pick wrong and be okay with that, right?
Especially when you're in the hospital and you see, because I would think that I would see these patients and think, man, if they would have managed them differently, they would not be here on an insulin drip and having all these problems. Why didn't someone intervene sooner? But the reality is, if you have 7 minutes with a patient, you're not going to be able to intervene. You're not going to be able to talk. And that's just like with Dr. Speakman, having this conversation with him, like it's calories in, calories out. And his mindset is like, that's nice if you have rats in a lab. But we're dealing with people where it's messy. They're going through a divorce. They got arrested or they a DUI, whatever, all those things, and life gets in the way. And we all know that, like we've been saying, it's stress, it's family support, it's all these things. So what we're doing is building communities. I love it when I get a community together and I have someone who came off, 150, 200 units of insulin a day. And then I have a new person who's on 150 units of insulin that has no hope. And they see that person and that person's their hero. And now they're connecting. And now, building this community and you see the sacrifice is worth it in the long run. You take I took a pay cut too, right? And like, that's what's funny about when people go, oh, these guys are making all this money. We both took a huge pay cut to do what we're doing, but you see the future, you see what's coming, and you know that you're going to help. We went into medicine to help people ultimately, right? I don't really need to fly a private jet or anything like that. I'm pretty content and happy with the way life is. And that's why I'm not as motivated as you to make this huge worldwide effort. But you realize, man, I'll help the people I can. When I go to Guatemala, I help the people I can. I can't help everyone. So some people say, well, if you can't help everyone, then why waste your time? It's that one person you can help that really matters.
Yeah, I think look, the other part of this is so early on I knew, okay, I needed to do this and I didn't want to go into bankruptcy. So I just started doing online consults, right? Just online consultations, right? And eventually, I mustered the courage to go to Wells Fargo and say, will you give me, $300,000 to start a practice? This is on top of my student loans, right? Which are astronomical, right? So
I'm still paying mine, man.
Yeah. So
let me just stop you for a second, folks. That is why it's so important, because all these young docs, they have 150, 200, 300, 500, $800,000 of med school loans they have to pay. They can't. It's going to be really hard to jump in and start doing something like this. It's really, really hard, and it's hard to jump out once you establish a practice in the standard to get out. That's the thing, is so many people are hostage to that. They just can't do it. They're looking and saying, oh, I need security, I can't do it. And I was in a place in life where I've been working hard enough for long enough where a certain percentage of my patients follow me over to help me float this thing, because just starting out is really tough. And that's the other thing we're seeing. So sorry, Troy, I just wanted to jump in there and say that.
No, it's terrifying. So we looked around. I don't know, most people don't know this, but I was looking around for offices in my area, and there's this kind of like not a dingy, but like a strip. There's a strip mall right by my house, right? And there used to be a nutrition store there. But what made me interested to open the location where I did, I looked at medical offices. I'm like, where am I going to do this practice? The location of my practice was actually the chocolate store I grew up with. That's why I picked it, right? The current Falls I'm in was the chocolate store that I went to as a kid, right? So that's where I got started. And we had to completely, renovate everything, construction costs, permits, etc. And then this was 4 years ago. Wow, it's like going blast from the past. Basically, really the plan.
I remember watching you building it and doing all this stuff. It's just crazy, man. It's
awesome. But the thing is people don't realize that, like, I didn't take a salary. I was working 2 jobs for 2 years.
And you're watching money flow out. Like you're paying for, like what? I have to redo the floors now. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's stressful. I know. Trust me.
So, for 2 years, I didn't take a salary. I still haven't taken a salary. I'll probably pay myself a salary this year. So this is now the 3rd or 4th year where I'm paying myself a salary. So I worked 2 full-time jobs, had a full clinic on my own and a full-time job just to make this happen. My wife is like worried as hell, like what's going to happen, but luckily I have amazing support. I mean, God put us together to do this podcast. Jason Fung and Megan helped. Diet Doctor helped us out.
Yeah, you look at all the people along the way, Dr. Horvitz, Molly Rutherford, so many people behind the scenes say, hey, what do you need? Let me help you out. Like so many good people out there that they want you to have what they have, and they're very kind and decent with their time. And that's what we love to do too, when we can help people. And, like your story, and it's funny how it all works out, right? So me, I was on 2 keto dudes, and they go, hey, Brian, you should start your own podcast. I'm like, no, I'm just kind of a monotone dude. I'm just like a regular guy. I'm not like a exciting So I'm like, who could I pick? Let me look. And then I see your post. Some people didn't know that. I was telling people about it in San Diego, is that I saw your post saying that you're running on the treadmill. That hit me, and I was like, this is the guy, because you're running on the treadmill and these guys go, look at that fat guy. He's never going to be like, he's wasting his time. He's and then you feel shame, and you feel, and then you have 6-pack abs, right? And you realize, wow, that stays with you. When you said that, I go, that's the guy. Right. And that's what I see your heart, and you're a hothead on Twitter, but I mean, it's like some of those things need to be said. Like, people need to get their, challenged, because they keep saying, when you see, and I know it's a righteous anger when you see that people are giving the same advice that they gave you. This whole thing, just last night, I saw someone just being a jerk about it. He goes, just exercise more, eat less. You're lazy. That's your problem. It's like, well, it's not that easy. It's if it was, everyone would do it. It was like, oh, I just eat a little less and I exercise more. Well, you have to take into account a lot of other things. It's not that simple. Hormones and stress and life and all these things. And what are your coping mechanisms? And that's why having the time allows us to dive in and go, is this, because over this last year, Tro, and I think you're going to agree with me, a lot of people know the science. They know how it works. They know everything, but doing it, implementing it. How do I do it? Right. And how do I stick with it? And I failed so many times. And then you get that doubt in your brain, and you get all this stuff that you can't do it. And I can't keep doing this. And then you give up, because you're not seeing losing 30 pounds a week like everyone else that you see on Twitter says they're doing, type thing. And so a lot of it's just being there and say, hey, I'm in your corner. Let's go. We got this. Let's get back off. You blew it for a week. Okay, big deal. Let's get back on track. Right. And how do we do that? That's where the real skill comes in, right? To really just connect and go, okay, don't worry. I'm not going to yell at you. Let's do this. How do we get back on track? What will work for you?
Yeah, look, you need the time. It was Dr. K from Indiana who basically said, it takes 4 people to do a string quartet 300 years ago. It takes 4 people to do a string quartet now. You can't change that, right? We can't make rapport happen in 7 minutes. We can't make trust. You can't impart insight in 7 minutes. And that's the reality. That's why I think my patients come here is because I give them my time. I've chosen to value my time and their time, right? And I really think that that's why people come, and they know that we're highly invested in just trying to become better and better at what we do. More convenient, more accurate, better, easier, more accessible. I mean, crap, like I'm making an app. Like a doctor is making a doctor has 15 cloud-based software. Like just the level of stuff that you'd have to do to deliver excellent care, like you would have never thought, and meanwhile, Dr. Unwin probably does everything I do without
with nothing. Yeah, I know.
Right?
That's the amazing thing. These clinicians that are really good. Westman didn't have all the tools we have. All these guys who've been doing this, you look and you're like, what? Like, he was asking about CGMs at the conference. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. He's doing what he's doing because he's simple. He doesn't make it so complicated. Here's the page. Here's what you eat. Here's your thing. And he makes it simple for simple people, right? And so we have a mix of people who are very simple. But the thing I love is that I've demonstrated for sure, and I know you have, is that I can go into the communities where they say you can't help these people, and I can help them. Right, like in Vacaville, these ladies lost. I think they're going on 180 pounds lost now, and they're eating differently, and their mindset's different. They're helping their communities. Like, how much does that save the healthcare system? Some education, right? So just doing group meetings, just getting that, and then meeting individually with people. So there's so many tools available to us, and the limiting reagent is us, unfortunately. And so you go, okay, how do I reach more people? Like having an app, I'm doing the same thing. There's things like that we do, and you go, okay, can that reach someone every day? Having health coaches who can reach out, and knowing, and I think the biggest thing is realizing our job as primary care docs is not to be the smartest and cover every area. If you need a cardiologist, you need a cardiologist. If you need a gastroenterologist, you need a gastroenterologist. If you need a addiction specialist, I have Joan Iflin. If you have someone who just needs to keep you on track, we have Brian Wiley, right? And Amy. And so you start looking and go, we have the tools. What is the tool that you need? Not everyone has food addiction. So not everyone needs Joan, right? But a lot of people do. And a lot of people don't realize it. So you figure out, okay, which tool do I pull out of my, and sometimes the other day was a prayer with someone. Someone said, can you pray with me? I'm like, yeah. And it was very emotional, but I wasn't forcing that on them. They said, hey, would you, I know you believe, can you help me? I'm like, yeah, that's a tool I have that other people may not have, right? And it was very, very powerful. And so there's things like that where you just realize, what can I do to help that person? And we have to get the arrogance out of it. We have to say, I'm the only one who can do this. No, sometimes it's going to be you who reaches someone that I can't reach, right? Your personality is going to reach them, but mine isn't. So it's figuring out like, okay, this isn't working. Who do we pull in? Ben Bakikio for exercise, or whoever we like, you know? So I think that's a huge, huge deal. And I think the big thing is that I've learned, and this has come up in our Zoom meetings, is having that constant contact is very critical, because people will tell me, and they may tell you the same. They'll say, the day after I meet with you, I want to eat everything, because I've like I've done that, and then I'm not going to see you for a week, and then I'm going to take that one day and just. So there's so much like that where people, there's a natural letdown or a natural tendency when you know, when the school year's over, you win the court case, and you go, okay, let's go celebrate, right? And it's hard to change those things.
Look, the bottom line is you're right. We can't do everything, but we have to start to put these amazing people together. And we have a really excellent platform that we've built, right? It's not that we're scalable. Like, we still need to find the right people. The culture has to be perfect, but you see it. I'm sure every day doctors are asking you, can I come work with you? Can I come shadow you? Can you show me what you're doing? Can you help me get started?
No, they're all working
right?
for you, man. I can't get anyone out here. They know California is crazy. They let the cat out of the bag. No one wants to come out here. I'm stuck on my own for a little while. But
you know, every day people are calling me. And so I think we need to make a system. You know, my next step is, can I hire people that are, you know, just as inspired as nutrition, just as grounded in evidence-based medicine, right? But both, right? Can we find these people and hopefully get them to kind of work together? And that's the hard part, you know, is now I'm thinking about, okay, you know, what can we do to be of more value? We're thinking about doing virtual physical therapy. We're thinking about, you know, there's a local pediatrician who said, Tro, I want to come, you know, I want to come work with you, right? So we're thinking about, okay, what is it that we can offer to be of value? Can we get like-minded people who share the same culture, vision, to now start taking those next steps, reaching their own communities in a way? You know, not everybody needs to go make an app. Not everybody needs to reinvent all these systems that we've put, that integrated, that crosstalk. Like, we don't have to all redo everything. Is there a way we can work together? So the next part of this, because I can't see anymore, right? I can't see. Maybe I can handle 20% more. I have a 3-month wait now, right? There's 3 months if a new patient wants to see me, which I think is unacceptable, right? Like, so we're thinking about, okay, who's the right person that we can bring on? And we're in interviews, we're in talks, you know, and for me, you know, it's not hiring a doctor. It has to be somebody who's, you know, very knowledgeable in evidence-based medicine and inspired by nutrition. You know, they can't be too, like, they got to be, you know, these people have to be able to walk that line, which sometimes
and you have to be
to walk.
Philosophically aligned. You have to say, look, here's our goal, here's our vision. Because if you have two people with two different visions, it doesn't work. It's very hard. Even if two great people, it's like, you have to say, look, here's our path forward here. How are we going to help people the most? And it's hard because, you know, it really is. It's very, especially working with doctors is always a challenge for sure. You know, it's like herding cats. It's really, really hard, especially because we're all busy and we're stressed. We got all this stuff going on. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge. If you can work with the worst patients are doctors, I'll tell you that for a fact. It's really hard, you know, because stress. Actually,
believe it or not, doctors have had a wild success. I can't count how many doctors have lost.
No, I've had some really. I will step it back a little bit. Yeah, no, I have some great doctor patients, but you know, back in my old practice in that setting, when they were looking at a different thing, it was notoriously bad. They would show up late. They wouldn't do. It's kind of crazy because their life's crazy, and I get it. So yeah, I think it's important. I wanted people to know what you're doing, because I know you're doing some huge stuff and you're not just sitting there doing nothing. And hey, you went on vacation. How did you survive that, man?
Yeah, you know, that was that was a challenge. So it's been 2 years basically since my family and I took a vacation, and you know, because of the travel restrictions and this and that, we just decided to go to the you know, Atlantic Ocean beach. We went to Maryland, and it was nervous, like leaving the practice. It was like kind of like I was leaving the baby, you know, but we had the lines open. My staff, I have a great office manager, Colleen. I have a great medical assistant, Tori, and we just hired Myra, who's just a future med student, and we have these amazing people that really just helped, and Amy, just helped to kind of keep the ship going. It was like totally fine. I was nervous that like, oh, I'm going to leave my patients behind. I'm not going to be there for a week, and but it was totally fine. They texted me when they needed me. I texted them back, and it was like it was totally smooth. But I was so anxious about like leaving everybody behind. But everybody was okay, and now it's back to business. And this week has been good. And when I was in private practice with Hackensack, now Meridian Health, Hackensack Meridian Health, which is the biggest group in Jersey. When I went away for 3 days, I walked into like 12-hour days, 7 minutes a patient, millions of labs that had to be reviewed, billing codes,
phone calls, referrals, workers' comp, all that stuff. And it's
meetings with marketing managers telling me that, I should be referring more patients to the physical therapy, Hackensack physical therapy office.
Yeah, it's amazing the pressure. It's amazing. And like, me with Boca, when I got back, I was like, forget it, I'm done. That was my defining moment. I just said, that's it. That's a straw, right? I came back and I was working 20-hour days trying to catch up in phone calls and like crazy, not seeing my wife and kids. I'm like, this isn't worth it, man. No matter how much money I'm making, and I was making pretty good money, it's not worth it anymore. If I can't help that patient, I'm annoyed by patients now. That's not a good place to be, and I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people, their doctors are that it's coming out sideways, because they're at some point the patient becomes the enemy because you're so busy. You're like, now what do they want? They don't need to be seen for that. They're fine. And it's like, but if you have a spot, you go, yeah, come on at, like right now, yesterday I said, come on at 2:00 today. Yeah, come on, 2:00. I got an opening. All right, I'll see you then. Cool, right? I have someone I'm adding on the end of the day today. No problem. Come on in, because I'm not working 18-hour days anymore, and I could say, okay, come on in. We're cool, and people love it. What I love too is my patients are so respectful. And you told me this would happen, but they don't call after hours very often unless it's really an emergency. And they say, okay, like if I'm going on vacation, we send a message out to all of our patients. Hey, just so you know, if you need anything done, if you need paperwork, whatever, let's do it this week. He'll work really hard, but he's gone in 2 weeks. So, be respectful, and so people are, and they go, okay, they need their, anxiety medicine refilled or whatever, then we can do that, and you do it, instead of it all happening, I'm trying to be with my family, and every 10 minutes I'm answering refilling medicines and doing that stuff. So I came back this time from Low Carb USA, and I was like, just walked right into my practice and started working again. Because if anyone needed anything, I just took care of it at the conference or after, it was done. And having that communication where you can just text, because sometimes we're in a conference and we can't talk, but I can say, yeah, I'll take care of that. No problem. I can email it back to them and it's all done. Everything's taken care of. I don't have 50 of those when I get back on Monday.
And the patient gets to they get a relaxation. So I was on vacation, and we had a Holter monitor, which is a monitor that does EKGs. Patient was worried about arrhythmia, and they messaged me like, doc, I'm really worried. Can you check my Holter? How amazing is it that I just logged in, looked at what's going on in their heart in real time, and told them they're fine.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, look, you have no arrhythmia. There's nothing going on. I mean, so I can do my job because we've put these systems in to be efficient. Right? We can be of service to our patients. And it took me 10 seconds on vacation. How long would that have taken in the old model? Right? They would have called an answering service. You got to call the cardiologist. Cardiologist takes 3 days to call you back. You get the report 6 days later. I mean, so the reality is
yeah. It's crazy. It's a crazy difference, because reality is that, Tro, is like at my old practice, you'd call, you'd be on hold forever. Sometimes they hang up on you, then they get you, and then they send you to the voicemail. They put it on the voicemail. Then my medical assistant has to listen to the voicemail. Then when she writes the voicemail down, and then she sends it to me or calls me or brings it to me with a bunch of papers at 5 o'clock when I'm trying to get out of there, right? And then I'm there till 9 o'clock doing callbacks and all this stuff that it should have been during the day. I had an hour earlier. Once at lunch, I could have just called those people back if I would have got the message. They call at 10 in the morning. I get it at 5 at night. It was like, what is this? This is crazy. But now they can just text us directly, thanks to you, and with our spruce system, and they can email you, text you, call you. Here's a copy of my labs. Here's that, and we could like very quickly address stuff rather than waiting 2 days to get everything scanned into the chart and all that kind of garbage. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm thankful to you all the time for helping me navigate all this craziness to get this thing up and running. And and that's what happens. That's where my faith builds, is all these people go, hey, I got it. Like Cecile said, like helping me say, well, I can do
Oh
a
my
website.
God,
Oh, I
she's an
can help you with
amazing
that. She's an
person.
amazing
Yeah.
person doing tons of work behind the scenes. But so many good people like that say, hey, how can I help? How can I help? What can I do? And so that's what's exciting. And all these high end people are just awesome people behind the scenes that are friends or good people. They don't have this arrogance and I'm going to keep this secret to myself and I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. You have to figure it out too, because I had to figure it out. So I think there's so much of that we can help these young docs coming out, or some that's not even young docs. I know there's a lot of world-class, well-experienced, well-published. Oh, speaking of well-published, we didn't even get to that. Tro, you've been multiple published also. You've done a ton of research. You're doing a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. And that's something a lot of people may not know about.
Yeah, I mean, we've now, I have to thank, first of all, I have to thank Eric Westman. He's been a great mentor, and I have to thank David Ludwig, also a great mentor. Just people who have tolerated my antics and behavior, but really helped me progress academically, publishing, now we've just submitted our 4th case series. So we have 3 case series published. The first was on binge eating. The second was on high triglycerides. The third was on diabetes remission without significant weight loss. And now the 4th is going to be a bombshell. And there's a dream team of authors, I think, really involved in that, including David Ludwig, including Dave Feldman, including Nick Norwitz, and another doctor that some of you may know, some of you may not know, Adrian Sotomato, great, very bright guy out of Mexico City. So look out for that, and that's going to be on cholesterol. So this is going to be a big one, and I'm excited. I mean, what kind of, I just think to myself, like, look at the world where a punk, social media jerk can, publish, meet amazing people, get supported by amazing people, support other amazing people, interview hundreds of bright, scientists and doctors, Ken Berry, Ben Bickman, Jason Fung, and now publishing, Brett Scher, Andreas, just so many people that are absolutely crazy. And now publishing research, like Brian, I think to myself every day that God is good. And on top of that, a wife that puts up with me, a podcast co-host
that's a miracle in itself.
That puts up with me.
Yeah, that's
an office manager that puts up with me. And you know what? And I gotta say this is, I don't think you realize the moral impact, your moral and ethical kind of demeanor has really improved my family life. Because I don't have many friends. Like, I probably talk to you more than I talk to many of my friends. I mean, I have friends, but like we
don't get together every week and hang out for an hour. Yeah, get to learn together and do stuff. So yeah, there's something
I have to be honest. Like, your relationship, I mean, this is just personal stuff I'm sharing. Your relationship with your wife and your family, like, you're being a father, it's been a, something for me, being a father to 2 kids, and the way you respect your wife, it's really, it's rubbed off on me in a good way. And so, it's just, life is amazing, and it's amazing how we get here. And now you and I are in this position where we may be able to help other doctors who struggle just like us. God's put us in that position where maybe we can take in, some doctors who are eager to do what we do. And so, I'm hoping that that's the next step here, is the app, the website relaunch. We have corporate, that's another thing. We have a major corporation that has hired us to pilot a weight loss and diabetes reversal program. Just now, hopefully we can be a place where other doctors can kind of come in and grow. I think that's what the low carb space needs.
Yeah, and we're going to reach as many people as we can, during this process. And, and we have reached a lot, and this podcast has been a huge blessing. And I think, God uses the nutty people sometimes, always the fringe people that people go, we use that guy. Like, why them? Why those two guys? But, that just shows how great he is, right? It just shows that, you get what you need at the time you need it. And you may not get all that you want, but you get what you need. I think that's a Rolling Stone song, I'm pretty sure, something like that. But I think it's important. But there's a mutual respect. And I think when we first started out, people would say, you guys rag on each other, you pick on each other, but there's a mutual respect, and us guys can get away with that sometimes. And but once people figured us out, they go, okay, they like each other, they're not at odds, right? But so Tro, how do people find you and track you down, man, if they want to get your services or get back in shape or get healthy again, get their health back?
Oh man, just be prepared to wait. Look, you can get in right away with our health coaches, Amy and Amy Igus, just an amazing person. Amazing person, lost 200 pounds. Yeah, just visit the website and you can message us right from the website, drtro.com, and you'll get a live person right away. And, Brian Wiley's our other health coach. You can start with them right away or join we have a big group that meets weekly. A lot of things coming soon, but for me, as I said, very little space left. So I don't think, pretty much closed for new patients, at least for direct metabolic care and direct primary care. But, for weight loss, we're still taking patients, but again, it's like 3 months wait. I need help. So if you're a doctor out there, a PA, an NP, physical therapist, and you have an interest, that's the people I need help with next, so that we can continue to spread and continue to grow.
That's awesome, man. That's so good to hear that you're just so busy and all that stuff. Yeah, I've been busy too. I had a student rotating through with me right now, and he's like, "You're the busiest DPC doc I've ever seen." But I'm like, for me, it's like I get time. I mean, I may be working hours, but man, I'm not rushed, and I get to spend time. We get to connect, and we get to laugh, and like, a lot of what we do, Tro, is a social visit. We talk about life and how's things, and we gain stuff in our brain, and we go, okay, here's what we can do to help that person. And so I'm just honored to be on this journey with you. I think it's really, I think we both had what the other person needed, and we were able to share that, and I needed your youth and vigor and enthusiasm and vision to do what I'm doing. So it's just awesome to share this journey with you. It's been a great time, and it's good. I'm glad. Sometimes it's nice not just to have a guest so we could just sit and BS and talk a little bit about life and what matters and all that stuff. And I think people need to know kind of what happens behind the scenes and why we're doing this podcast, because I think at some point we kind of lose focus and vision, and then getting refocused on why we're doing it. And I think telling stories and I think us focusing more on bringing some of your patients on, some of mine who are amazing people that I'm learning from, and just sharing the stories and giving people hope, and just so great. And we thank you to the Patreon supporters. And so if you're patient, you can track down Tro. If you're on the West Coast, you could track me down. I'm not as popular as Tro yet, but I'm working on it, and we're working on some things to be more efficient and more cost savvy for patients. So it's awesome. Everyone, direct primary care, if there's a good direct primary care doc around you, and we're trying to change direct primary care to get them to understand metabolic health better, because that combination will crush it and help a lot of people, and that's going to save the healthcare system, really. So Tro, man, it's been an honor. Thanks for joining me, and we'll
it's great. It's always fun.
We'll talk soon.